All right, and we are live. Welcome to the RV Life Pro product training Q&A. Where's my little, I've got a thing here. There we go. I'm Pat Buchanan. I'm your host, as always, on our weekly Wednesdays. This happens Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Central Time. Be sure to subscribe to our RV Life YouTube channel and our RV Life Facebook page. I think like or follow that, and you'll be reminded of these weekly broadcasts. And today, I didn't have anything really specific as I started the week, but I had a great call from the wonderful Miss Terry this week, and we went over some things together and really shed some light on some things that'll be fun to show you guys today. As always, come equipped with your questions and answers. Well, I'll give you the answers. Bring your questions, and we'll try to cover anything from related to the RV Life Pro product suite, RV Life Trip Wizard, the RV Life GPS app. Our goal here is to just give you a nice outlet to ask questions and get sort of a live response, some Q&A, whatever it takes to help you navigate the software and get you on the road. I don't really have any special house cleaning information this week. We're going to keep up with the 11 a.m. Central Time for this show, and so let's just go right into it. Let me share my screen. Make sure I get the right one here. And yeah, I think we'll stick with that view. And that way, when I hit stuff on the bottom, it doesn't get covered up. So anyway, so this week, like I said, I had a great call with Terry this week, and we talked about, as she had a trip similar to this one. I've kind of sanitized it a little bit and dollied it up so you guys wouldn't be able to stalk her through Yellowstone. Okay, so we've got some really almost identical with some different stops and things to her trip. And she had some great questions. And as we kind of unfolded those and brought those answers out, it really reminded me of several interesting things that we can show you with regard to this trip. So let me bop over here, make sure comments are good to go. If you have any questions at all, of course, leave those comments. So as we looked at her trip here, the first question was, and of course we looked at the trip itself. It looks great, right? We're leaving some nice territory. We're headed through here through Bighorn National Forest. We're into the east gate of Yellowstone. We're staying in Yellowstone, coming out through and heading out down here. So it's a great looking trip. Almost, what RVs are designed for practically, right? But as we got into this, our first question was, this little stretch here through Bighorn, is that safe? Is that RV safe? And as we talked about this, and we'll show you some things, it really brought to mind my list of what is criteria for an RV safe route. And as I looked at my list, number one, of course, is that Trip Wizard routed you there. So we can rely on that route being RV safe, provided we've put in the correct RV dimensions and RV properties. So we'll look at that here in a moment before we continue. Number two, are there campgrounds on the road or on the route that you're interested in? Number three, are there big buses or big trucks on that road? Obviously, we can't see that from this view, but we might see where we can shortly. What do the elevation and the grade look like? Are those safe elevation? Elevation is somewhat subjective, but primarily with the grade or the steepness of the angle of driving. What does that look like? And we'll touch on that. And then just some visuals with some satellite and street view. What does the road and the shoulder and some of those things look like? So those were kind of my criteria for this RV safe route. And as we went over those, so we started to go into that with her. So the first thing we'll look at here, and I'm just going to tap on that, make sure we got any questions. So the first thing we're going to do is our RV, say that a different way, are our RV dimensions set correctly. We actually had, in this case, let me pop in and show you my RV dimensions. Actually, these are, I take that back. These are, in fact, her dimensions. And one thing we noticed was that her height was actually manually specified or overridden at 13.8, which is a problem. It's over 13.6. Her rig wasn't really that tall. Her rig, I think, was 13.5 or 13.6. I think we were playing around with some settings here. But you want to make sure your height is accurate. It's not going to behoove you to fudge those numbers and make stuff up because it could really have some ramifications. And we saw that when we took her height down from the false 13.8 down to 13.5 or whatever it was, her route altered slightly because she was in effect telling her she had a somewhat of an oversized load and it was causing some other issues. So we just want to make sure that our height, our length, our weight, and our propane status are appropriate for our rig. And in this case, I'm just going to leave these settings. This is what she had in there. So we're going to save that. So, the other part I wanted to mention, I need to go back into that, is our routing and driving. It needs to be on this red setting, the RV routing. Now, by default, it should be, but if you find that when you create a new trip, if that is defaulting here to standard, yeah, see, we're going to warn you that standard routing is not for RVs. In fact, I understand that I'm not going to change that. So happy to see that this is in here. It's really important. You need to be on RV safe routing. And so by default, you actually should always be. I'm just going to hit save, make sure we stay on RV safe routing. And we'll give that a second to save. And we'll go back to our trip. So that actually answers criteria number 1, which is RV Trip Wizard set properly? And so now this route can be trusted as RV safe. As we look at option number 2, let's turn on our campgrounds. And I'm going to clear my filters. And let's answer criteria number 2. And bear in mind, just to clear this up a little bit, we were concerned about this particular section here through Bighorn National Forest. So that was our initial question. And so as we turn this on, we can see that there are a plethora of campgrounds along this route. So granted that I'm sure some campgrounds might be for tent campers only. It's typically, if we have them here, which means they're registered in campground reviews, which is obviously the kind of the de facto resource for RV campgrounds and parks. There's a good bet that these are all RV parks or campgrounds. And of course, we see that along this route, there's a dozen that I can see here at a glance. So and we zoom in a little bit closer, we can see these are right off the road here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That one's close. 8, 9, 10. So that answers our second criteria, is that there are campgrounds on the route. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn the campgrounds off again, just here a little bit, so we have a little bit of clarity. So the next question, and we'll skip ahead to number 4 because it's handy down here, is the elevation and the grade. So if we look at this route, we can of course see the elevation. It's sections of it go as high as 8,000 feet, 9,000 feet. And if you can see this, and I'm hoping the clarity is good enough here, but if you'll look at, and I just want to check some things, looks good. If you'll look at this section right in here where the mouse is kind of the middle of this green section here, you can see sort of an orange donut or an orange wheel. It's an orange circle, all right? I'm trying to complicate things. It's a circle, right? It's an orange circle that tends to move in correspondence with me moving my mouse along the elevation chart below. So we can see that that peak section right there is right here with this little U-shaped Cloud Peak Skyway. It's kind of right here. So the question is, while that looks tall, is that a concern? Before we look at it visually, let's check the grade on that. And we can see that even in this steepest sections here, if we look at our chart, that's only a 3% grade if we're able to match that color, right? 4 is a little brighter. It could be 4, but I think it's right in the 3 to 4 range. So from a steepness perspective, 3 or 4% is not particularly worrisome in most cases. So we feel more comfortable with that. That's great. Let's go take a look at it now. And let's get a satellite view first of all, just because we can. And we'll go down there. The satellite doesn't tell us a ton. It looks like land. Okay. In this case, there's not a lot we need to see particularly. If we zoom in on what this is down here, now this is interesting. So we can see there's obviously some sort of a turnout here, a stopping point, could be a photo opportunity, could simply be a resting point. But what I see here for sure is what looks like a truck pulling an RV or a trailer. So that's a good sign. That actually answers questions. Number 3 is, are there buses or big trucks on the road? I should actually have included, or other RVs on the road. So right now that looks pretty promising. But let's go ahead and go to Street View and see how that pans out. And we can see it's rocky, it's snowy, but the road looks pretty darn good here, right? It's wide. We've got lanes with turnouts. This is that big turnout section here. But we can see that the roads look fine. If we're not overly convinced there and we want another point of view, let's come down here somewhere slightly different if we like, by this turn right here. And we see again, it's a good solid 2-lane road with some reasonable looking shoulders, plenty of ice. So, that's obviously if you're going in the winter, that's going to be a concern. But otherwise, this looks like a fantastic road. And so if we review our criteria that we set out, RV Trip Wizard routed us there. There are campgrounds on the road. We saw in this particular view, we didn't see a bus or a truck. I actually had, we'll go to that later. We didn't see a bus or a truck, but we did see a satellite view of a car pulling a camper. We looked at elevation and grade, and then we looked at the visuals, some satellite and street view. So based on that criteria, and let me just switch back to the map view for a moment, that section looks pretty reasonable, right? I think we have some faith in that. If we can, here's another area, maybe we'll see something here. It seems like I looked at this before, and you kind of feel like you want to be able to look out and see the lake a little bit. And if I recall, yeah, you can't really see much of anything. It's all around the trees. Looks like a ski area back there maybe, but a good solid 2 lanes. Again, nothing to worry about here. If we scoot a little bit farther, there's a sign of some kind, snowmobiles, whatever. And we're going to talk about this in a moment, but this is a great way to sort of stoke the excitement of your trip, particularly when we start looking at places closer to Yellowstone. It can really amp you up for what your trip is has the propensity to the possibility of being like. So anyway, so with this in mind, we were able to say, yes, this section is going to be perfectly safe for an RV. Now, you have to make decisions. Would you like to drive that section at night? I don't think I would. No, it's doable. It's safe. But as an RVer, I typically don't travel at night. I don't want to hit a deer. If I hit a deer in my Jeep, it's going to be a pain in the neck. If I hit a deer in my RV, it's going to be a nightmare. And for the deer, it's a nightmare either way. But it's a far costly and troublesome affair if I hit one in my RV. So I'm not driving at night. But I know this is a perfectly safe route, and I'm going to plan accordingly. We're going to leave. In this case, we're staying at Indian Park Indian campground and RV park. And so I'm going to make sure I leave early enough to navigate this section in daylight. Um, so the next thing we looked at, and we can see that that portion of the trip is going to take us next to this east entrance Valley Inn and campground and RV park. As we continue to look at this route here, let me just double check, see if I got any comments. No comments or questions. Let's keep those coming if you have them. As we look at this next section, I feel pretty safe about this. The two things that jump out at me are, well, I wonder what this lake looks like, right? So let's do a little drop ourselves. I may have to zoom in closer than that. Let's drop ourselves on this road. And this little icon I'm dragging, it represents, if you can imagine a street in a 3D perspective with lines going down the middle, it also looks a lot like maybe an Aztec pyramid. So it could be a ladder, it could be a couple of things, but I'm going to drag that and just poke that right onto the road there, and it's going to automatically jump to this Google Streets view. And I can see, well, there's my road. I've got just a gorgeous piece of property there to look at. I can see I've got a turnout or a little stopping point here on the side, which is good to know. If I want to, and this is what I love about this is, as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, hey, now I know exactly where I can plan on turning out to take a picture if I want to. You know, so, and of course the road looks fine. So we'll go back to our map. The other thing I might be interested in, just as I'm thinking about this, is that you can see I clearly have to go through Cody. Is there any concern I have about these routes? Now, I don't think so. But if I'm curious to just see what does downtown Cody look like? You know, what am I going to be driving through that's a potential concern here? So I might take a look at that. And I can see it's a pretty normal looking city, town, street, whatever. So nothing I'm going to be too worked up over there. Now, as we get into Yellowstone, of course, we've got some other questions. So let's stop and see. We have any questions going on. So a couple of things here. You know, we've already met our criteria. I said earlier, if we saw buses and things on the road, that would be a good sign. And I'm thinking that I looked at this earlier. So one of the fun parts about this, and something I did before I went to Yellowstone, is to see what does it look like inside Yellowstone. You know, you can look at pictures and things on the internet. You know, you're going to get these gorgeous landscape views and whatever, but am I going to get the road? You know, nobody wants to see the road, but I'm driving an RV. I want to see the road. And I feel like I looked at this earlier, and let me drop this street view here. And sure enough, and right back here, we've got a bus. And so the bus tells me a couple of things. You know, it's kind of like when I went to, if you've ever been up the south rim of the Grand Canyon, our first RV trip, we rented a big 36-foot gas RV, but we didn't have a car or anything. So we took that thing everywhere. So when it came time to see the Grand Canyon, we drove it up there. And, you know, as I'm thinking about this ahead of time, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing tour buses. And I'm thinking, okay, well, if a tour bus can go there, I can go there, right? And as I'm looking at this Yellowstone here, I'm seeing a bus on the road. I'm seeing, again, a turnout for either photographs or if I'm coming down that hill, coming a little slower, I'm going to maybe pull over and let people pass me and that sort of thing. And that's, you know, certainly always be cognizant of that. You can't always do it, and it's not always super convenient, but where the ability allows, be sure and let people pass you if you're a big slow RV. So as I look back at this Yellowstone route, I'm getting more comfortable with it, right? I've kind of looked at part of it. I've seen here again, I've met my criteria. RV Trip Wizard routed me there. Are there campgrounds here? Well, let's turn our campgrounds back on, and sure enough, we've got of course, Fishing Bridge Campground down here, Canyon Village. We've got this Norris Campground. We've got now this one here. When I see this, of course, it's probably not ones for my RV. Here we've got something that's obviously not only does it have a RV in the um, facilities icon, we see a picture of an RV here. So, and of course, we have this whole section of campgrounds right here near West Yellowstone. So once again, I look at our criteria on is this an RV safe route? Trip Wizard routed me there. There's campgrounds. I saw a bus. We looked at visuals with satellite and street view. What do the elevation and grade look like for this section? Obviously, it's the same trip. We can see that this section here that I just sort of walked you through, you can see the orange wheel moving around. We can see that the grade is negligible, 0 to 2%. There's one little stretch that's maybe 3% there, but nothing to be of any real concern about. So once again, this thing has met all the criteria of our trip. Is this an RV safe route? We look down here and we say, well, this is interesting. This is, of course, the famed fishing bridge. If you look up pictures of Yellowstone, you'll almost always see the fishing bridge, but it looks like I'm going to be driving right over that. So is that a concern for me? Well, here again, there's a campground, Fishing Bridge Campground, we said a moment ago, but let's see what Fishing Bridge looks like. Let's just visually, mentally prepare ourselves for what we're going to be doing. And of course, here is that famous fishing bridge. I don't see anybody fishing. Maybe it's not allowed anymore. I didn't Google it, sorry. We see people wading into the water, and of course, we see controlled traffic flow, standard size streets here. I'm going to be able to drive my RV through there. So again, I'm taking away any fears and concern that I have about what I can and can't do with my RV as I'm planning this route. And so I've looked at that. We can come down here and look at the lake, same as we did earlier. And other than probably I assume is a speed limit sign, perhaps. We can see Lake Yellowstone right there. You can see a little bit of a turn out there going the opposite way. But again, when I see a picture like this, it not only gives me assurance that I'm going to be okay in my driving, but it really builds that excitement about, hey, we're going to see some great stuff, even just on the route. So it's really exciting to me. And we have done Yellowstone, and it was really fun. It's really nice. So as I look at that, as I look at that, I see that this is going to be a great trip. I think I have stayed here at the Longhorn Ranch. It was really still one of my wife's favorite campgrounds, and it's very highly rated. We'll come through there, come down here, and finish off near Rock Springs and Green River and whatnot. As I'm looking at this, we actually had the misfortune of a very foggy day when we took this route here. And so as I was hoping to look back upon the Tetons and whatnot, I think all I did was see fog. I don't know if we'll get any better than that here today. I have some trees in the way, but if I scooch up a little bit here, yeah, you can see some mountains back there a little bit, and all I saw was fog. So it was, one of those things that someday I'll get back there and we'll do it again. So that was it. The other little thing that came of this, as I was just reminiscing a little bit, let me turn the campgrounds off, is it got me thinking about the Grand Canyon South Rim, and now we travel with a Jeep, so I might do what we have done, which is stay here at Longhorn, for example, and take the Jeep into Yellowstone and do those types of things. That's probably how I might approach it now. We actually took a 36-footer into Yellowstone, stayed at Mammoth Campground up by the Mammoth Springs and whatnot. It was just fantastic. And we were lucky. I mean, I was pretty naive, and it was a few years ago where I was like, well, we should be able to find a spot. And we were fortunate to have found a spot, and it was wonderful. But you got to plan a little bit better than that, certainly nowadays. And sometimes what you don't know is the best thing. But as I was thinking about this trip and our trip to start to say Grand Canyon, I gotta find the gotta find the Grand Canyon first. Here we go. Um, so we ended up, as I mentioned, we did not rent a car at that time, and we took uh, our RV everywhere. And our plan was to take it here up to 64 and come all the way across and come down and make a day of it, and actually park in the Yellowstone, in the Grand Canyon Visitor Center, and hang out for several hours, rest, eat, have our rig right there, all of that type of thing. No, we weren't going to sleep there, but we could spend the day there, right? And so here again, it was, well, what am I up against? What do these roads look like? And as you zoom in and grab the street view, we start with this view, for example, and just throw it here on Rim Drive. And we can see once again, yeah, very familiar looking, good 2-lane road. We see our signs here. And I could actually come up and read those sometimes, see if they're interesting. Grand Canyon Visitor Center, Grand Canyon Village. I mean, this is just, Street View isn't necessarily a new thing, but when we implore it with what we're already doing for you, it's magnificent. Of course, you'll see tour buses and whatnot here. So that's one thing that we did. The other was, as we're thinking about this, particularly if you've never been somewhere, right? I'm thinking, well, okay, is there a place to park the RV? I mean, well, what am I going to do, right? So this is where we go to satellite view, and we hone in on this visitor center. And this is, then you see the scale of this thing. So what I'm seeing here, of course, is rows of RVs or tour buses, or probably a mix of both. Obviously, these shorter ones are not tour buses, but the bigger ones could be tour buses or 45-foot RVs, whatever. You can see that there's plenty of room, there's parking, there's boatload of parking over here, and obviously depending on the time of year you go, there's a bunch of parking over here. So we don't have anything to worry about. We know we can take that RV, we can park, we can visit this lovely visitor center, we can walk down to the rim and see what we need to see. We can just take comfort in knowing this is going to be comfortable. This is going to be okay. And I think I even took myself down here to the rim. Let's see. Yeah, right over here. Here again, we see some larger vehicles, and we can drop our street view icon here again. Sure enough, that looks probably a 32 footer, perhaps 30 footer, something like that. We can actually see the Grand Canyon, plenty of little parking here. We see some vehicles there, and you can make a plan. You can make a trip. If this is my trip, I might add that in as a stop, as just a day stop. I'm not going to spend any nights there, but if I was going to want to remind myself, hey, I don't want to go flying past that thing at 30 miles an hour and then have no way to back up, right? So let's add this to our trip, create a custom stop, call it scenic outlet, 0 nights, because I'm not sleeping there, and just save that trip, save that and add it. Now, of course, this is going to be at the end of this KOA, so it's 1,000 miles or whatever. But that's not really the point. Is I can add this in to my trip. I could add, the Grand Canyon Visitors Center. Whoops, sorry, Grand Canyon Visitors Center. I'm getting click happy here, and I could add that to my trip as well. I got something going on here. Now let's just show our entire trip real quick. Obviously, I would have stops and things throughout this whole journey here, but what we really wanted to cover, and if we look at that section of the Grand Canyon that we just did, does it meet our criteria? Well, we'd have to throw up our elevation again, and we can see that section, and we can see, you sort of see the orange circle over here by Tuba City. And we come through here, we can see again, we've got some elevation, but the grade is negligible. So there's no concerns there. Triple routed me there. We saw campgrounds in that section. There are buses and trucks on the road, and we saw the visuals. So once again, we've met all of our criteria for a safe route. Um, and that's it. And that's really what I wanted to go over today. And this can apply to any aspect of your trip. And we've done it probably every show. We've talked about I can use those same tools to vet campgrounds, Walmarts, Cracker Barrels, gas stations. Um, if you're to take your kid, we've got kids in Grand Junction, Colorado, and the question is, well, do I take my rig and park in front of their house for a while or a day or whatever, or do I stay at a campground nearby? And in the case of, so previously they lived in a cul-de-sac that looked really tight, and there was no way I felt like I was going to get my 43-foot rig and Jeep pulled in and out of there easily or safely. So we opted to stay at a nearby campground. Whereas now they've moved and live in an area that has this kind of weird service road section in front of their house that's off the highway. And actually, we could potentially pull in there, stay there for a few hours, or even I could probably stay the night on the edge of that road because there's room to get by. I would probably just not put out the driver's side slides if we decided to do that for a night or whatever. But the point is, I don't know that till I get in here and vet it out and use the tools to figure that out. And so we just want you to remind you that all of these tools are available to assure yourself of a safe and enjoyable journey. Of course, when I'm ready to take the journey, I'll open up the RV Life GPS app on my phone and I'll pull that trip up and start my navigation. Let's see if we've got any questions. Yeah, and I actually had a spot. So here's a great question by Freddie. And I had a spot picked out here. Let's see if I can remember where it is. Here it was, right? I think it was right here. Yeah, this little, what looks to be a pretty threatening little hairpin turn right here in Yellowstone. And if I look at that from the 30 and 10,000 foot views, I'm like, okay, that's a concern. Let's take a look at that. Obviously, I can go here and I can look at that with a satellite view. And as I do that, it's a little hard to see, but I can clearly see a truck pulling a little trailer. Let's go to street view, see if that gets any clearer for us. And we can see that it looks like it's a big turn, right? It's hairpin, but only in the sense of scale. It's actually a pretty broad turn. There's some cars there. Obviously, plenty of room. We've got a little turnout. You'll find these all through Yellowstone, these little turnouts here. And what we can't really, what you may or may not be able to discern here is this truck pulling a trailer or a camper right there. So that's a great question, Freddie. Thank you for that. This is an off topic, but it's actually a great question. So David is going to be at the Grand Design Rally in Myrtle Beach. David, we are not Rally. Yeah, we are not going to be there officially, but we do work with a lot of folks that kind of represent us. They may be handing out some door prizes or something. I know I've worked with a lot of folks going to some grand design rallies. We don't have any official capacity there right now, but we do usually have a lot of representation, either through content creators or sometimes a giveaway or something like that. We do our best to get involved as much as we can. So let's look at Greg's question. So this is a great question. Can we explain the default mapping, how the default mapping program in TripWizard differs or varies from Google Maps? I have found that the location POI I enter is often about a half a block from the actual address. So a couple of things here, Greg. From the standpoint of routing, uh, RV Life is going to use a trucking engine routing. I think they're the most popular routing mapping engine on the planet right now, and we're going to overlay that with our RV Life, or our RV info, our campgrounds and things. But the actual driving and routing comes from a mapping company called Here, Here. They're kind of what everybody uses for truck and RV routing. The difference is in how you manipulate that and what kind of um, data you can lay over that. Um, and because we're laying data over that, I could see potentially some things being a half a block from the address. I'd love What we would love is specific examples of that as you run into that. Now, um, within TripWizard, there is a way to contact us. If we pop over to that real quick, let's go back to the standard view just for my own sake. When you're in RV TripWizard, and if you notice an anomaly of sorts, um, you can click on your little avatar and go to help, and then go to contact us, and we already pre-fill a lot of that information, but you could maybe just mention the issue here, and we could kind of track that and see what we can learn about that. Um, that's from a standpoint of choosing a POI. Now, I can't say I've heard this before, so I can't give you a great answer other than um, we would love to have a specific and check that out. Um, there are also ways, we've talked about this sort of location aware search, where if I'm searching for something up at the top, it's going to it's going to start where I'm viewing on the map and then broaden from there. But I can look for anything. Um, if I look for auto repair or something over here, I don't know why I would want auto repair. Maybe my Jeep needed something, but I can see that based on where my map is viewing, I've got ProTech, Auto Repair, Napa, Sunnyside, William, somewhere in this general vicinity. And those are derived directly from Google. But I think that, um, let me get rid of this for a second. I think what Greg is really talking about is some of these POIs and things here possibly being off a little bit. And all I can say there, Greg, is we'd love for you to send us a specific, and let's see if we can get to the bottom of that. Good, thank you, Greg. So this is an interesting question. The navigation sounds like it's speed reading. Is there a way to change that? Well, I'm going to do something I don't usually do, which is just wing it live. So we're going to see. I don't think I got my phone up here yet. Quick time player. Let's see if I can get my phone going here. And new movie. Let's switch to phone. Okay, now we got the phone. Now let's share that screen. Let me stop this screen first. This is what everybody wanted, was a technical rundown of what I'm clicking on. Okay, and so now we have the RV Life app up. And when you want to change settings related to navigation, you really have to be in the navigation first. So I'm just going to pull up a trip we've got planned, and I'm actually just going to start navigation. And my hope is that in this building, I'm not getting blocked off too much, and it'll actually build a route. Here we go. I'm going to start that navigation. And now when I'm in navigation, I can actually click on my options, and I can change my voice volume, which is loud, voice navigation, speed alerts, speed limit, route preferences. I don't provide route feedback. Okay, that was that. I don't see a speed reading, a too fast or whatever. A lot of podcasts will let you listen to things at accelerated speed. I think I listened to one at at 1.25 or something like that. So I'm going to just say to holler at our support people and ask them about this. I don't have anybody here with me right now that can answer that. I have not heard this one before, and I don't see a place to control it here. So within the app, that was what I was doing. Within the app, you can, and this is why this would be important, Mr. or Mrs. Tech Gamer. This is why this would be important to do from your mobile device. And the reason is I'm going to stop that route. I'm going to go back to my app, and I'm going to go to More and Profile here. And I'm going to go down and hit Contact Support. And the reason I want to do that from within this app is they're going to include in the email that you send mentioning this, it's going to have all your phone and OS and version information so that they know, oh yeah, it's this version, this problem, whatever, Android, iOS, whatever the scenario is. And they can either come back and say, oh yeah, you need to upgrade this Android or this app version, or no, we've never heard that before, or whatever the scenario is. If it's happened, somebody's probably heard of it. But they're going to be able to answer that because you're providing them all that information when you reach out and contact them. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic, because that's again, I've never heard of that before. And our a bit about our support team. Our support team is comprised generally of RVers that have all used our tools. They're familiar with our products. They're real RVers that have going through the trials and travails and experiences that y'all have. And so very often they've seen these, or they've run into questions and things that you would be familiar with. Of course, they're seeing questions come into the help desk at all hours of the day and night from folks. And so this question that I've never heard of before, they might have heard of 50 times or whatever, they already have notes on it, internal stuff going on and whatnot. So thank you for that. Thanks, Carolyn. I agree. They are doing an amazing job. They work, they're kind of, everybody's remote work now. And of course, these folks, a lot of them are RVers, and most of them are actually RVers. Some are all are not always on the road, but they have or do RV or have in the RV'd in the past. And they're up seemingly at all hours of the night. We've got folks that get there real early and some that stay up real late. And so your questions tend to get answered pretty quickly. Thank you, Greg. Again, our support team, they work their tails off, especially this time of year. And which kind of coming full circle, which is kind of why I'm here doing this, is not to grow a massive YouTube channel or do anything crazy like that. We're just here to support and provide data that helps you plan and do the best you can with your trip planning and usage of our tools. Obviously, the RV Life Trip Wizard is in depth and complex, and so it requires some additional help to use. But it's unbelievably powerful. There's nothing in its space that's even close that does the amount of work that it does. Remember, we have all the campgrounds listed because they're derived from campground reviews, which is now RV Life Campgrounds. And that data, we've got 20 years worth of data in there, hundreds of thousands of reviews and tens of thousands of campgrounds. And it's completely brand agnostic. So you're going to find state parks, local parks, national parks, city parks, all flavors of private campgrounds, public campgrounds, KOA, Thousand Trails, military campgrounds, you name it. We're going to just throw everything we've got in there. And our members are amazing about reporting, hey, I just drove by a campground and it's not in your database. And that's a pretty rare occurrence, but it happens. Most usually what we see is something get renamed or something get moved down the road a little bit, or brand, certainly. And now these days we see a lot of brand spanking new campgrounds where the owners don't have any clue that they're supposed to tell us about it, so they can be on the largest database in the country. So yeah, reviews, people do need to do more reviews, and we're trying. One of the things you'll see, this is a great segue, Carolyn, thank you. So one of the things you'll see, let me see if I can share my screen again. So in your trips, one of the options you have, so for this Yellowstone trip that's in June 21st, I can come into my trip settings and have pre-departure emails and I can turn them on. And what that's going to do for me is that as I get close to that date, it's going to shoot me an email and say, "Hey, it looks like you're leaving. Let's go back to where I am. Looks like you're leaving Heartland. Looks like you're headed to Indian Campground in Buffalo, Wyoming. Here's the weather that day, and here's what the weather conditions look like. Here's what the I can go look at one now. Here's the campground. Here's some tips and tricks from people in that campground that or they've been to that campground. And what we'll do is we'll actually take the Q&A tips from that campground's reviews and drop them in your email as a little bit of a reminder of, hey, there's a great pizza place here, or be sure and um, don't come before 3 because they won't let you in, or whatever, whatever the tips and tricks are. But we'll send you those pre-departure emails before every leg of your journey, just as a reminder of what's going on, just keep you abreast of what's happening. We'll also follow those up with a, "Hey, how was your stay at Indian Campground? Would you like to leave a review now?" I think we'll like to see those pop up in your app as well to remind people. We get lots of folks that they get somewhere, they take a bunch of pictures of the campground, and they just forget to leave a review. And everybody relies on those reviews so much that we don't want you to forget if we can help it. So we'll hopefully send you a little email or something that says, "Hey, how was your stay at the campground? Would you like to leave a review? Do you have any pictures to upload, tips and tricks, that sort of thing?" Our whole society seemingly is built on leaving reviews for stuff. I got an email today from Home Depot on a weed eater I bought. "Hey, would you like to leave a review?" And it's funny because it's like, no, I don't wanna take my time and do stuff, but I know that I looked at reviews before I purchased, so why would I wanna help the next guy, right? So I took a minute and I left a review. Now, I didn't leave a review for the bag of fertilizer because I I don't know what I'm gonna say about a bag of fertilizer, okay? It was there, I said, "No, thank you," but I left a review for the weed eater, and we encourage you to leave a review for these campgrounds and things. It's vital to the whole ecosystem, and to help those new RVers and things. So, um, what else have we got? I don't see any more questions out there at this moment. We'll give I'm gonna look back and see if I missed any. Give a last call if you're watching. I did forget this week. I got busy and forgot to insert the little reminder at the top of the RV Life newsletter. I'll try to do better this weekend. Eventually we'll try to automate that if we can. But as a reminder, if just again to close out, subscribe to the RV Life YouTube channel, subscribe or like the RV Life Facebook page, and then if you're not already getting the RV Life newsletter, go to rvlife.com, click on magazine at the top, and scroll down on the right. And my my Apple Watch is reminding me to stand, so that's gonna have to wait. Scroll down on the right and click on get the RV Life newsletter or something like that. It's beneficial in multiple ways, but certainly as a reminder. I think the reminder comes out Saturdays because the Wednesday email is already after the broadcast, so no reminder in the Wednesday email there. I don't think I've missed any of the questions or anything, so that looks good. Also would be interested in topics um, for next week. If oh, we got a question. Good. Let me read the question. Removes the one streets in a mapped area seems to confuse truth. Can't match it. I'm not sure I know how to answer this. A mix of one-way streets in a mapped area seems to confuse Trip Wizard and it can't map changes. I get blank spaces between stops and I can't reroute manually. Um, I can't say I've seen this before either, Greg. I feel like I'm batting zero here. Now, certainly there are ways to manually coerce a route, and maybe we should look at that. But here's another case where I'd love to see a an example of specifically. Now, if I go to, let's go back to this trip here that we were talking about, and let's just say we wanted to force, let's go back to Cody, or was it Cody? Where was that? Somewhere I had a city I was going to fiddle with. Yeah, let's just say, let's just use this example here. Now, of course, there's not a whole lot to, there's not a whole lot here, but let's say that I wanted, instead of taking the 90 up through here and coming down and juking through town, what if I wanted to come down here for some reason? Um, I'll just use it as an example. I can't think of any logical reason, but let's say that this was a problem. Okay, let's say I needed to come down here. I could try to drag the route by turning on drag route. Make sure that's showing up, and then I could try to manually pull that route down here. You can see it's a little precarious. It may not let me go for that very reason of it being a one-way street. It is letting me come down here, however, and I can do that. So this bypass road could have been an issue, or I just didn't have a way to get on there easily. So I can do a little manipulation that way, but if that doesn't work out, I just delete that. The other way I might be able to do some manipulation, let's say I need to come up here, is, let's see, this is Indian Park. Let's say I needed to come up to McKinney for some reason. I could create that custom stop after Indian Park. And now, yeah, see, it doesn't even want me. It says, fine, I'll take you there, but we're not coming back down Main. We're going to come here. Some of that also, let's not forget, is that there may not be a truck route allowed, an RV route allowed on this particular stretch of the road. For example, it certainly seems less efficient to go up here and then come all the way back here. It's possible, however, this section or this section here isn't an RV safe route, either through a bridge or a weight limit or some other regulation. Um, and sometimes just got to fight through those a little bit. Maybe we go to satellite view and see what's going on. Um, but I would also say this, if for some reason I absolutely had to get my RV here, let's say there was in fact, let's do this. Let's kill that custom stop. And let's move that custom stop right here, because I had a thought. Yeah, see, even coming down here, and here's that gap area here. So there could be an issue with this spot, of there's something not RV safe about it, or there's some kind of an issue. The other thing is that if you had, let's say this was an RV shop and you simply had to get your RV there, um, this is a case where we would want to report this and say, hey, I'm trying to get to this location with my RV and it won't let me. What gives? Sometimes we can find out, that there is a specific restriction that's going to prohibit that. If we go to satellite view, it looks okay. And obviously there shouldn't be an issue there, but there's something triggering this concern, and our folks can find out. They can research that. We actually have a tool. They can go in there and see what's up with that, and there may be some sort of an issue, that's it's not happening. So we run into those. When you're dealing with stuff that is truck based, you're dealing with 18-wheeler rules and things that are at the sort of the core of it. And because somebody may not have ever had a reason to route themselves this way, maybe the questions never come up, but there could be something going on in that section. Again, it could be a city ordinance that doesn't allow 18 wheelers, and we've never put in an RV override because nobody's ever asked or ever gone that way before. So just stuff like that. But if you run into that, I'm pretty intrigued by this, Greg. And if you ever get some feedback or something on that, we'd love to hear back about that. This is a completely irrelevant question with regards to RV Trip Wizard, but since I'm a hockey fan, I'm going to answer it. If Toronto doesn't blow it, they're on fire. Austin Matthews is killing it. Maybe Toronto has a chance. We'll see. Stars haven't been able to clinch, so I don't know. I don't think the Stars can go all the way. Back to our regularly scheduled program. Lisa, our Trip Wizard time left on trip never updates, even though it's moved us along with step-by-step navigation. So this is, I would say we have to ask this. Oh, we got a couple of things here. Lisa, this is hand in hand with this, which is upload the trips to Google Maps, nor could we add a stop on the fly. What am I missing? Okay, Lisa, a couple of great questions here. What it sounds to me like is that you are not using the RV Life GPS app. The reason I get my assumption of that is two things. Number one, Trip Wizard will never update. It's not a live navigation tool. The RV Life GPS portion of that, which I'm going to go ahead and show you here, is a live navigation tool. It's going to show you live navigation, the whole bit. Trip Wizard is a static planning tool. It's not designed for navigation. It's simply designed to let you plan that route. The other reason I think you may not be using the RV Life app is you're going through the motions of exporting to Google Maps, which you simply don't need to do anymore, and you shouldn't do anymore. Maybe if you've got a very small camper and you're not concerned about height or weight, sure, go ahead. But there's no reason to do that anymore. The RV Life GPS app, which is included in your RV Life Pro subscription, will read your RV Life Trip Wizard trip and navigate for you and give you that full progression. So let's look at that, because that's like the greatest feature here. So let's go to share that screen again. So here you see I have the RV Life GPS app loaded. If we want to look at what that icon looks like, it's that red teardroppy looking icon there. Your home page looks like this, which is informative, right? It shows the weather where I'm at, or where I am currently, and it shows nearby campgrounds. This is just one feature: rest stops, gas stops, whatever. As it pertains to our trips that we've planned in RV Life Trip Wizard, let's go to our trips tab, and you can see that Yellowstone trip that I had planned. When I begin to tap on that, and I'm going to pick a local trip just because I'm not anywhere near Wyoming, this thing will freak out. But you can see my trip is in here. So if I take that to this local trip, here again, you can see I've got a stop here, pilot, campground, another pilot. Now this is the trip I have planned in RV Life Trip Wizard. I'm ready to navigate. I'm at home. I hit the arrow. I want to match my trip exactly. I mean, why spend all that time planning it in Trip Wizard if I'm not going to match it exactly, right? So I match it exactly. Now here's my trip. Now I can hit start, and I will begin the navigation. And it will, of course, I'm not at home. Well, I'm here. I'm not at home right now. It's of course waiting for me to start driving. But this will do turn left in 1,000 feet or whatever it is. It's actually going to do the navigation, and it's going to progress and step me through. Now, as I'm driving along and I get to my first pilot Flying J and I fill up, all right, so I'm done with that leg of my journey. Now I want to head on to my campground. I I don't hit pilot, I don't hit start again, I just come down and hit my campground. This is the next part of my journey, is to head over to the campground. So I can, and this is a great example of this is, let's say you're booking along and you've got a rest stop planned, and you like, you don't need to stop. Nobody has to go to the bathroom. Kids are asleep, whatever the case may be. You're like, hey, I'm just going to fly through this baby and move on to my next stop. Well, my next stop might be this campground. So fine, I'll tap it and I'll go. And so the RV Life GPS and Campgrounds app, you get it from the App Store, Android or Apple. Search RV Life GPS, and you'll download the app, and the app will ask you to sign in. Sign in with the same login credentials you use for RV Life Trip Wizard. Take your time and be careful with this. If you just let your phone do whatever it wants to do, it's going to fill in whatever it thinks is right and assign it to FaceTime and do all that. It might be right, but very often it's the wrong email address. It might be logging in with your iCloud address, but your Trip Wizard is really something else. So just take your time and sign in with the RV Trip Wizard, RV Life Trip Wizard, RV Life Pro, your RV Life address. Take your time, make sure you plug that in, and your trips will be there. Rule of thumb is real simple. If your trips aren't there, or it's asking you for money, you haven't signed in correctly. Please don't pay again. We don't want that. Pay once, you're good to go, right? So sign in and navigate with your trips. That's what I think is happening. So Lisa was using the RV Life app. So I have trouble not understanding what might be going on. The other thing, I'm just trying to think what else could be happening. I have seen people that are in the midst of their journey. Let's say I'm on this Yellowstone journey, right? And I'm halfway through the journey. I don't want to come in here and hit start directions from first stop, right? I'm already on the journey. So I'm going to come down and go to wherever I'm headed next, and then I'm going to hit start, right? So this will be interesting to see what Lisa's got going on. Again, with Google Maps, there just is no purpose for going through those motions. And in fact, this is an interesting thought. If RV Life wasn't navigating and Google Maps wasn't navigating, remember, if you're doing this on an iPad or a tablet, most of those do not have GPS chips, and so they won't navigate properly. Also, during navigation, if you're navigating a trip you have planned, you are not adding a stop on the fly. Okay, it's just not going to happen. You've got to open up Trip Wizard and add a stop that way. The other option is, let's say I'm on this Yellowstone trip, and I'm booking along, and we decide, you know what, I need a Walmart. I need to go buy something. I need to go pick up a prescription, right, or something. Some doctor called into a CVS in the middle of nowhere, or whatever it is. So you stop your navigation, right? We were doing this before. We were in our navigation. We stopped our navigation. We got back to our menu. We went to our map and we plug in, or our GPS, and we can plug in from our current location, wherever we are in the middle of Wyoming, whatever it is. I can plug in the address of the CVS that I need to go pick up the prescription at, hit go, navigate with RV safe directions to get there. When I'm done and we're like, okay, let's get back on the road to our campground, I just go back. I gotta get back out of here. Go back to my trip, and I just pick up where we were headed, which was Yellowstone, and just start navigating again. So you can't add on the fly in the middle of navigation. Now, can I use RV Trip Wizard on my phone, RV Life Trip Wizard on my phone to update a trip? Sure. I can go to my browser and I can go to RV Life Trip Wizard. I can sign in, go to Planner. I'm already signed in. I can open that local trip. or here to open this starter trip. And now I basically have a mini version of Trip Wizard. I have my trip listed here. I have my map listed here. I have the POIs and stuff here. I can add a stop and manipulate that trip. And then when I'm done manipulating that trip, I go back out to RV Life, pull up that trip I was working on. For the starter trip, first I'm going to swipe down real hard, get everything to refresh, and then I'll go to my starter trip, and that trip will have been updated with whatever I just did. So hopefully that was helpful. Let's see what else we've got going on. We're going to look at Greg's in a second. I like this. RV Life GPS keeps RV safe, very human mistakes. Very nice. Let's take a look at Greg. Here's a mix of one-way street examples. Santa Fe. Each of the paint to see it. No need to respond now. Just now. Okay. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. And of course, this is a good reminder from the folks at Project Trek to add stops on your Trip Wizard before opening the GPS. And we just kind of walked through that. So that's great. Shout out to Christian and at Project Christian and Nate at Project Trek. If you want to have fun, want to subscribe to a YouTube channel and just enjoy life, go find Project Trek, subscribe to their channel. They're a hoot. They are. Yeah, and just looking at Lisa's comment again, yeah, and like you said, Google navigates you, but not with an RV safe route. Unsure about why it wasn't navigating, but this brings up a good reminder, Lisa. You can see on the screen here that before I take this trip, I have the option to download maps and data ahead of time before I leave home or before I leave the campground while I'm on Wi-Fi. I suppose there is a possibility that if you did not download the maps ahead of time and lost your cell phone signal, that could account for the navigation to cease. Now, here in the DFW area, I don't lose cell phone signal. I'm taking a trip 2 hours away. I'm not going to probably download the entire state of Texas for that. But in this case, if I'm getting out on the road for a lengthy trip, I'm going to go ahead and do that ahead of time. We can see on this starter trip, it looks like it takes me through with Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. So if I decide to download download the data ahead of time, you can see that in fact it only prompts me to download those 3 states. So just thinking out loud here, Lisa, it's possible that might have happened. And actually I couldn't tell you when, but we're working on this to be able to add something on the fly as you're navigating. It's if you knew the irons in the fire that our development team had going on, it's staggering, and hopefully this will be a feature we can implement at some point. So, woohoo! And Greg, just email us or email support, and you can even reference the broadcast, and our team will help you out there. It's this is a great format for questions and for getting some information out, but it's from a data accumulation, it's not super easy. So hopefully you can get that data to our support team, and they will be able to help you out there. Okay, I think I have covered all the questions we had going. Yeah, good job, Lisa. She knows how to use it. So, and I do think that's a great idea, and that'll happen. So, just running through my comments here a little bit more. Okay. I think that's all we've got. We'll throw out the last call again. There's always a bit of a broadcast delay from when I say that and from when you guys hear it. So um, we will be doing that. And I'm just checking some more comments here. Um, I think we've got everything covered. Uh, I did cover my the steps. Uh, One of the things we wanted to remind you of again is to like the RV Life Facebook page, subscribe to the RV Life YouTube channel, and if you aren't already getting the RV Life newsletter, grab that. Go to rvlife.com, click magazine, go to the right-hand side, you'll see the red box to sign up for the newsletter, and that's where on Saturdays I try to put that little reminder that we're doing the broadcast. But of course, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, kind of solves all of that because YouTube will remind you that a broadcast is coming. Um, this is a great comment by Lisa. Lisa's got a lot of good info today. This is kind of like a, so I will answer your question. Is there a way to flag the app for hazards that may exist so others don't drive there? Yes and no. In a broad sense, yes. Early, we talked about receiving those. Actually, we did two things earlier. We talked about receiving emails about how your trip was or how your route was. Um, and in those emails, there's a place to note, hey, something's going on. This intersection, I don't know, this street was under construction or this road is closed forever or whatever the case may be. Um, we don't have a live way to tap on the app yet in like a Waze like feature to flag something, but um, you can mention it in that follow-up email. I was just seeing what else I saw here. I don't think it was anything here. And when, of course, in the profile section, you can always contact support and mention some issues there. I was trying to think where if I had saved a copy of that email. I don't think if I do, I wouldn't be able to find it quick enough. But I had uh, the follow-up email about how was your stay, how was the route, how would you rate it, is there any comments, that type of thing. That's something that you should see as well, that the comment can be made like that. Much like we'd love to be able to and are working on getting things added on the fly, when that mechanism is functioning, so too might the mechanism to add a comment about something on the fly. So we're working for that. Um, yeah, this is great. And and the low hanging branches. This is an interesting one. So the low hanging branches for months along the RV route. I would say a couple of things about this. Yes, it'll be nice to have a spot where you could tag this as being an issue. Um, I will say, however, that much of what we looked at earlier, let me see if I can go back to that. A lot of what we looked at earlier with regard to routing and street view and that sort of thing can play a part. And you can actually, so Google updates their pictures and street view fairly frequently, right? Um, Certainly more frequently than most. Than like a satellite view. The street view gets updated seemingly fairly frequently. I mean, I don't know how many times you look at your own house and you realize, hey, that was last year when we did that, and that was 6 months ago when I had that car and that type of thing. Well, if I'm looking at a campground, for example, of course, this one's kind of in the middle of a weird area. But if I want to know about branches, I'm finally a circuitous way of getting back to Lisa's question. Low hanging branches are always a concern, and they always seem to be near a campground, right? It's like you'd think that somebody would get out there and the campground owner would somehow petition the city to get that stuff fixed, right? But if I'm looking at this road, say going into this KOA, I want to be am I concerned about low branches? Now, easy way to determine it is to first look at it on a satellite view. You can see here, I have no concern about low-hanging branches on this terrain, okay? Um, but if I'm in a, let's say I'm looking for a campground in the Northeast, let's see if I can do this. Let's go to the Northeast. No, not the Atlantic Ocean. Let's try somewhere here in this area. Let's turn on some campgrounds. So I don't have any filters. Well, let's just grab something here and see if trees are a concern, right? Here's a campground. Okay, I definitely see trees here. Now, are low-hanging branches a concern? Well, let's just drop down to Street View and take a look. Oops, I may not have dropped it on the road. Let's try again. Or there's no Street View for this section. Yeah, that seems more likely. So here's a tree-laden section with apparently no street view. So this, this would be a potential concern for branches. And, this is where the tips and whatnot associated with this campground, probably don't want to stay there anyway. So sorry if you own that campground you're watching, I'm sorry. This is where the tips and whatnot associated with the campground. And let's go look at that. Let's look at the park details. And there are no tips here. So you might put a tip or a question, say, hey, are the branches a concern at this area? It's all that sort of crowdsourced data. And so again, the long answer to your question, Lisa, is yes, kind of, because I can make that a note in my review. Hey, we stayed at such and such a campground, and Highway 10 or Highway 17 coming in had boatloads of trees and it was a problem. So you can kind of leave that data. I don't know if we'll get lucky and find something else here to look at. Let's try this guy over here. I don't even see a road there. Let's get down on, see if I got a street view here. So apparently Google has no interest in the deep Northeast. So we're not going to see a lot there, but you get the idea. I can go down in most places. I can try to view that street view and vet that area out a little bit better. So anyway, that was what it was. And again, those types of features, being able to update things live and change things live, it's a process. There's also quite a bit of strict rules and things with what you can and can't do for like Google, for like Apple CarPlay. And so, the question becomes, well, I see this in my route. Now, Apple CarPlay might not let me add that because that's a driver distraction. So now what do? Do I disconnect my phone, make that comment, hook it all back up, or do I just wait till I get that email that says, hey, how did you like your drive? So it might be a thing to just wait for that email. So, okay. Good. All right. Thanks to Lisa for her input. Greg, thank you. Project Trek. Christian, I know that's got to be you out there. Thanks for everything you do. And who else joined us today? Jeff, always a pleasure. Carolyn, thank you. Tech Gamer, all right, you were helpful today. David, good to hear from you again. I feel like the romper room lady, so I think on that note, I'm going to wrap. We'll talk to you next week, same time, Wednesdays 11 Central. YouTube, Facebook will be here. Make sure you are as well. Bring your questions. Have a great week. Thanks. Bye.